These two, I would say, are the best players on this custom Civ right now. Persia in the hands of the Canadian twins. No one seems to be able to slay these beasts when they've got this Delhi variant. Welcome back, One Lord, the Grand Finals. Puppy Paw now leading in this best of 7. We've got at least 2 more games ahead of us. And if you guys wanted to learn how to play Persia, this has to be the game to watch.
I do not really know how you play a Persian mirror. I'm not gonna lie. It's an awkward one. It really feels like a French mirror in a way. But this gets interesting because here's the thing. You would think that, let's say, playing heavy into Savars and just kind of playing that heavy cavalry feudal age that we see in French mirrors could work. But then you have the mace cavalry, which do bonus damage against enemy heavy cav. So I'm actually wondering how aggressive these players will be. Maybe because you can defend easily with the Zamindar, the spearman type unit that you have, or even the mace horseman against Savar. That will prompt players to be a little less aggressive. And maybe we're just gonna see standard 2 TC builds here, especially on this map where you don't have a lot of safe resources to start with. So,
you want to know how it's going to work? It's time for an outpost rush.
Yeah, forget everything I said.
This was a classic. When Persia first came out, this was theory crafted. Hosen even deviously mentioned the creator of this mod as one of his envisionments is this Zamindar. He can build outposts. He wanted to see that coming, and Puppy Paw now scouts it. But look at his wood. He's already spent, so he can't stop this from occurring.
Cheesy build over here. And the gold for Puppy Paw is on the front, which is usually how this map spawns. It's one of the more predictable random map patterns. And because of that, you can play into these strategies consciously. On a map like Dry Arabia, it's a bit of a gamble whether your opponent has a front gold or a back one. But here, it's almost guaranteed that you have a front gold for your opponent. So you can just go for this build blindly even and say, well, I know it's going to be up front, so I can go for this aggression. And Puppy Paw will have just enough gold to get the feudal age.
Yeah, but what Wham can now do is rush an outpost between the berries and the gold, starving Puppy Paw of all critical resources. This spawn, for him, is cursed. He would have preferred to have had a split between his resources. This is so cool, man. You know, I don't think this outpost rush works in a lot of matchups, just because, let's say, for example, you tried to do it against a Mongol player. Like, his spears are better. There are a lot of matchups where this type of play from the Persians is not viable. But in this matchup, when you know your opponent's spearmen are just as bad as yours, it does make a lot of sense.
Yep. And that tower rush, though, that's going to be
so
very
fast.
oppressive. And you can't really pull villagers against this. Like, that's 4 spearmen that you're talking about.
I mean, they hit about the same as you do, right? They've got 5 damage, no 60 HP. But yeah, it's like the idle time, the fact that your opponent can keep spamming them because they're only 65 resources. It's just not a good trade.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. Because for every spearman that you kill, there might be a new one. But for every villager you lose, I mean, that's a big hit to your eco. And if you have to pull 6 villagers and, you know, just fight in a melee for 30 seconds, a minute, that's going to ruin your economy quite a bit in early game.
And I love this as well. Notice that Wham pulls back to the spearman. He's shoving the deer. On top of that, once he's shoved them in, these guys will help you build the landmark. They don't just build outposts. They don't just build Raxes. They can build anything, including your tech ups.
And that's pretty big. I actually love how he's doing this. Now he's going to leverage the Zamindar to push in the deer.
Yeah.
We had some time to talk about this yesterday. Different units have different hitboxes with the deer. And Spearmen actually have one of the bigger ones. So it's a lot easier to push deer with them than it is with scouts.
And as expected, it's going to be that Rudgun Castle. It's pretty much just created an insane second TC in his base here with the deer as well as the gold. Doesn't need to start killing them, though.
Yeah, this is a really good setup for him. And you see, he's not going to be very delayed compared to his opponent, especially because Puppy Paw decided to build this landmark with only 1 unit, his own Zamindar.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually, and he's prepping the archery range. This is going to be the military focus. He's going into a Mass Kamandar strategy, which is the pseudo longbows that the Persians get. Basically, it has 7 tower range. It costs a little bit more, has slightly more health, but doesn't have the damage increase you get with a typical longbow.
Interesting idea. I'm not against it, but I also don't think it's the best way of approaching this. If you go heavy into archers, especially if you don't have enough Zamindar to support them, The concern that you're having is that a couple of either Mace Horsemen or Savar can shut you down. Both of those, well, the Savar are just general heavy cavalry. They will be good against these archers. And then the Mace Horsemen get bonus against light ranged. So both of those units are really good to just stall out bushes. And then you have a 2 TC versus 1 TC setup here. Sure enough, it's double cost for these villagers, but that so far hasn't seemed to be that much of a deterrent for players. In fact, for most of the games that we've seen on open maps of the Persians, especially in asymmetrical Civ matchups, we've actually seen the Rutkan Castle being picked.
Yep. And now, Paul has to be a little bit careful about this push-out timing. Spiven are there to mirror him. And right now, it's a trickle of archers. So good move there. Wham actually caught up. He actually beat him on the Dynasty Tech up there because he had the second town center to work with. Remember, folks, the way you get your veterancies when you play as the Persians, you do not upgrade them in the production buildings. You have to trigger the dynasties in your base.
Yeah, the first one is actually very, very quick and cheap. It's 8 food, 18 gold for 8 seconds. It's also missing an icon, so devs, please fix. But yeah, it gets a lot more significant once you get to Castle Age, because that's where you have to start paying a bigger price. And if you don't go with the Nahir Castle into Castle Age, you actually have to spend a minute of your town center time in getting those. That's -3 villagers.
Yeah, that's why I think a lot of people go for Rudgun Castle inherently as well. Whenever you go for the Gundishapur, it's more around that feudal timing. Although, admittedly, some of these techs scale incredibly well into the late game, such as the Shamshir Blades, that is basically an elite army tactics on top of your elite army tactics for your swordsman.
Now, one thing that Wham might not be aware of is that Papipo snuck out to the right side for a gold. Remember, this tower is still up. It actually has been reinforced with arrow slits as well. So no berries available for Papipo, no gold available within his base. Yet he still has access to some gold. And that's going to be critical to pick up eco upgrades. Particularly double broadaxe would be very, very nice to have because he's going so heavily into these with heavy units. Sure, he's got the discount from the Gunda Shapur, but still. You want to have that extra production in because you're on a timer if you're playing Feudal Age aggression like this. And at some point, we're supposed to see a ramp push, though it looks like Papipo is moving on to stone. Makes me wonder if he wants a second TC.
Quite possibly.
No, it's just going to be arrow slits for a tower.
Okay. I think you could maybe justify it from this position, but what I'd like more is just Papipo to get blacksmith decks. Like, Wham is now trying to mirror you from behind. We talked about how long it takes Rudkin Castle to really pay off because it takes so much more effort to get the villagers out, right? You have to pay 100 food instead of 50. So if your opponent just is already massing archers and he already has the military focus to make them cheaper, it's not really a matchup you can win that way. Wham desperately needs to get these knights and find a way to raid around, whereas I think Papipo has more of a direct all-in timing in mind here.
Yeah, when you look at the ordinary civilizations built into this game, part of the reason why Feudal Age aggression, these very classic spear and archer push doesn't really work nowadays is because by the time you build up a sufficient force to, let's say, ramp push an expansion TC like this, your opponent already has the defenses up. They can just jump the rams to the villagers whatsoever. That's where the Gunda Shapur comes in. Having that discount on these troops is actually monstrous. It allows you to scale this production a lot quicker. And that means that your timing for the ramp push comes a lot sooner than it normally does. And this might open up a good window for Papipo to ramp push this Rutkan Castle before Wham really has those defenses up.
Savar's really struggling to find a way in as well, considering just how many spears Papipo has to work with here. Remember, folks, there's no sacred sites getting captured in this. This is not the Delhi. It doesn't have that element. It's Persia, but the way the modding system works is you basically have to replace an existing civ to create a new one. Right now, this new civ proving to be just as powerful on the aggro as I say the Delhi are at this stage. Archer's now moving in. The dive is going to come past by the TC and go deeper. The villager's not quick enough to move away here. Wham, no wheelbarrow. But Papipo maybe overestimating the timing here. A lot of archers are going down.
I don't like this. Especially because Rutkan Castle has 5,000 HP, which is your standard landmark HP. It's not an ordinary expansion TC. And that's actually that was actually one of the balance points for the I forgot the name of the landmark. I'm blanking out here. For the English Castle HTC landmark.
The White Tower.
It used.
Sorry, the King's Palace. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the King's Palace. King's Palace used to be 5,000 HP. It was reduced to 2,500 HP. Normal expansion TCs come at 3.5k. So 5,000 HP on the Rutkan Castle makes it among the tankiest expansion TCs. Actually, it is the tankiest expansion TC you can get in Feudal Age.
Yeah, I think they went back and forth, right? So it used to be 5,000, then it went 2,500. I think it's back to 5,000 again. But yes,
is it?
Yeah, it's. I agree that this one feels like it could be a 2,500 HP landmark, and it would be reasonable though. Like 5k on a 4 TC in Feudal Age is insane.
Yeah, base HP for all landmarks is 5k. You have a couple which are like 7.5, but indeed. This is actually a lot tankier version of a normal town center. It makes it a lot more difficult to ramp push, and this was a bit of a jump here from Puppy Paw. He really needed that tower gone so he can access the berries.
He really needed
But he left his archers alone.
Like, I think Puppy Paw really just needed blacksmiths. He kind of jumped the gun here. He would have had a really good timing if blacksmith techs were already prepped and in. Like, Steel Arrow plus Undermesh means you can just win every trade, and then you already have that natural transition into the rams. I mean, the good news at least is he is blocking out the deer. I think that's like 3 deer in range of the outpost. So in some ways, Wham is being starved, but unless you want to go on the flanks, which you don't want to do against heavy cav on the other side, you're not really starving Wham entirely. He's already out on these berries on the west side flank.
This tower has been doing work, though. Villagers have been picked off, and at the end of the day, when you look at the overall villager count, is neck and neck. That is bad for Wham when you've been playing on 2 TCs for quite some time.
It's about to get worse. Wham should be losing a few villagers here. Luckily, the quicker reaction there, Puppy Paw not immediately going in for the shots means that he will be able to back away there. But look at the count right now. I'm noticing a problem here. Wham still doesn't have a blacksmith tech. He's finally reacting, but Steel Arrow is already in, and Puppy Paw could easily have a double advantage here for the fight with Undermesh and Steel Arrow.
There is more to this. It's the cost efficiency. Every archer that Puppy Paw makes costs 65 resources. Every archer that Wham makes, it's going to cost him a lot more. It's 90 resources. That's a 50% differential between the two.
Yeah, it's 25 resources saved per unit. It adds up insanely quick. And this as well, Puppy Paw, another thing. He has access to the Banded Swordsman, something that Wham's not going to be able to mirror here. So it feels like Wham is just trekking towards being outright countered. Fight now is starting to go underway. Wham has to retreat back from this. But that blacksmith hasn't even started researching yet. Wham's so distracted by the fight, he's late to queue up the techs.
And I just love the use of the Spearman here for Puppy Paw. Wham tried to raid him on the back line at the gold and the berries, but Spearmen were nearby to help out. And now we have some Bavandid Swordsmen coming out. This guy has 2 swords. Wow. I don't think I've seen this unit. And talk about the models not necessarily representing what they are. This guy doesn't look like a heavy melee infantry. It looks like a thug with 2 swords.
Yeah, so this basically snatched the Bedouin swordsman model and gave him a different sword that's loaded somewhere in the game, because usually the Bedouins have the double scimitar. It is a pretty cool unit, though. The cool, unique thing about these guys is the Banded Swordsmen do a lot of damage if you look and hover on them on their charge. 15 damage from the machete, that's indicating the charge. That means in less than a second, you'll do 22 damage to a unit in Feudal Age.
I'm very surprised that we're not seeing a ramp push here from Puppy Paw. He's been trying to dive the Rutkan Castle for quite some time, but I mean, he's got a full light army here. It's a respectable army, 41 Bavandid Commandar. That's no pushover. But without a ram, he's not going to be able to push this position.
Definitely feels like he's getting the hard way about it. And we have to remember, over time, although it's not quick, Wham is building an economical lead. So at some point, you need to keep finding eco damage or bring an end to this Rutkan Castle.
And Wham snuck out to the left side onto the berries, and that's huge. Because one win condition here for Puppy Paw is shutting down that access to food. Sure enough, Wham is slowly building an eco lead, but if you can make that eco inefficient, it's not going to count. And this could be dicey here for Wham, because finally, Puppy Paw is pivoting to the north for the first time in this game.
But finally, Wham has found an answer to this outpost. Apparently shooting it with 576 arrows is how we kill it. Oh, raid coming in, though.
Every arrow does 1 damage, so if you have 1,000,000 arrows hitting it, that's 1,000,000 damage.
The math don't lie. Wham is reacting to this attack on the side. The archers should be able to trade out pretty reasonably still. The count should actually be favoring Puppy Paw here, but Defender's advantage starting to pivot somewhat. Spearman waiting in the wings there, get the freebie as the Knights ride in. And now they've scoured it. The swordsman spotted out the gathering of the berries. All of a sudden, Wham is going to be starved on food.
Archer count is looking a lot better here for Wham. Those reinforcements need to come in, but for the time being, villagers on the gold are idled out, and
They keep attacking the
Papipaw's also
Russian.
shooting up the castle.
Yeah, they're both doing this. They're both trying to blow up buildings with a million arrows instead of just building rams. But this push in now, this is where it starts to get a bit dicey, right? Wham's income is getting absurdly painful to look at. In the meantime, the swordsmen are also now idling out the wood line. Wham is sitting on a grand total of 2 sheep, and then he's dry on food.
I don't like how Papipaw took this fight underneath the keep, or I guess I should say the town center, the Rutkan Castle. Still though, let's not forget, every archer that's traded is good for Wham, because he's paying a lot smaller of a price for them.
Same with the villager situation. Like, if you think about the Rudkin villagers costing 100 food, if a swordsman kills 1 villager, it's not too bad of a trade, right? 120 resources for 100 raw, and you stop his economy. But right now, Papipaw needs a temporary reset. He needs to get the numbers going. You can see by the production difference, he should be able to just surge forward here. He's still playing flanks. He's still gathering a lot. Wham, in the meantime, has snuck back out to that berry patch, but he needs to make sure he keeps the guns firing. Otherwise, Papipaw now knows where to target.
Yeah, I feel like Papipaw could use a forward production building or two here.
Oh my
But
God.
now it's going to be a trade of archers, and this is, cost efficiency-wise, this is as good as it gets for Papipaw.
Yeah, that pretty much wiped out the bulk of what Wham had here. Right now, the thing that's keeping Green in this game is static defenses. That's the only reason he hasn't been killed.
Yeah, if Papipaw had just one ram here, that would make life so much more miserable for Wham.
It's kind of surprising we've still neglected that. I mean, it's 175 resources, then 200 wood. The ram, you can definitely afford it. I guess the logic now to defend Papipaw in this choice, at this stage, the archer differential isn't big enough to justify side investing. But most definitely earlier, when it looked like he had a 20 archer plus lead, that's when the ram timing would have been good there for Papipaw.
I feel like even now it would be reasonable. Right now he cannot really dive this tower. If he had a ram here, this would be a completely different setup. Especially because Wham is exclusively archers, which struggle against rams a lot. The only way that you take it out quickly is if you pull villagers for it.
In fact, Papipaw, I think he's contemplating castle. There's a lot of food being floated here.
That's what I'm thinking as well, but his gold income is very bad.
He can switch that up,
He just moved 6 vills to gold, though, so yeah, he's going castle.
Also, the berries are about to exhaust where he was gathering gold, so that's a natural switch over who wants it to occur. Wham isn't really in a position to mirror. He isn't also in a position to punish you here. These outposts have been doing God's work on both sides.
That fortification is paying off so well for Papipaw. This tower is just so difficult to take out at 750 HP. Or 1750, I should say.
It's interesting because I think like what Papipaw was doing here, it's basically showing you like the kind of English Lombo OP logic. The difference is this is affordable, and also the movement speed means that it's attainable, right? Like usually an issue with spamming and Congo lining English Lombos is they take too long to arrive, but you don't have that same issue with the Persian Kamandars.
You definitely don't have them. And yeah, now Papipaw is going into Castle Age. Raises the question of what landmark he's going to choose for that. I'm actually wondering if he's thinking about a Nakir Castle to the front. That would be such an aggressive move, but I would love it.
I think it makes sense to just end the game now, but knowing the twins as I do, it has to be the trade, right? We've seen these two make that landmark look absolutely broken. Ali Kapu has shown up, I think, twice so far in this tournament, and both times it annihilated its opponent.
It's a little dicey with the trade posts being in the middle, but yeah, I could see it going either way. Papipaw definitely had gold shortages, and this delays his Castle Age a lot. He's floating a lot of food. But we're going to get our answer in a second, because now he's got the gold to age up.
Papipaw, it's Ali Kapu. Here we go. In the east corner now. So, folks, this is the trade landmark that produces free traders every 24 seconds at a 50% discount. If that wasn't absurd enough, add in the fact it's also the Golden Gate from the Rus, and also it makes all marketplaces you establish create an aura around them that buffs movement speed and armor on traders. It's sick.
And Wham lost his scout, and he's got a fairly slow-moving army here pinned inside his base. So when Papipaw ages up, it's going to be difficult for Wham to stop this early trade going on. It's not going to be the best of ever, like a best of trades ever, but it's going to help Papipaw scale his economy very quickly. And let's not forget, he's going to be up to Castle Age. In a minute, he's going to have the Castle Age tech for his units. Now, one thing that he's trading off with the Ali Kapu here compared to the Nakir Castle is that it will take a lot more time for him to upgrade these archers.
We'll see. He queues up straight away. He disagrees with you later. Yes, there's extra 30 seconds, but he doesn't care. He got it going so early. This trade out coming in. Wham has to commit to it. But at best, it's going to be an even trade. At worst, it's just going to be you behind. I don't see how the hell Wham gets out of this sticky predicament anymore.
I don't like this for Puppy Paw, though. A lot of the archers are shooting the tower. And sure enough, the trades, even feudal v feudal, are cost-efficient. But at the end of the day, you probably would have preferred having those archers upgraded. Still, you definitely didn't want to fight under that tower, though.
I think he just doesn't care. He's still got about a 5-unit advantage in this trade. And we're very close to Dynasty complete.
Yeah, with the Savar arriving, though, he should care about this. I feel like this was very much overzealous here for Puppy Paw.
Look at the timing, Litter. It's 15 seconds away from the Dynasty. In the meantime, he's also got the Alikapud traders starting to pop out. I think this is kind of cruise mode now. It's ridiculous how quickly with this landmark you can overcome the Rudkin Castle build of the Persians in Feudal.
And now it's Castle Age decks in, so suddenly Wham is going to have to find a way up to Castle Age. He himself isn't super far away, but has to make an uncomfortable farm transition happen. Ooh. And he's, in a way, lucky that he's not being found on the hunt to the north.
Well, yeah, it looks like archers are roaming around looking for a target. Outpost is up. Now, keep in mind, if he tries to snipe the traders near the marketplaces, they will have so much armor, your archers will do 1 damage each. It will be as bad as when he tried to attack that outpost to kill him. Nice dive, though. I don't know, man. I think Wham may just be dead here. Like, think about the difference, right? An extra 10 HP, the +2 damage. These trades aren't going to favor you, and it means that Puppy Paw is reaching a position where he block a tech up, and as a result, he is on the verge of winning this. 3-1 scoreline. 1 more for Puppy Paw, and he will be the champion of the first Ascending Kingdoms.